Needs to be tree removal out there too that you've already got bids for our section of it, correct?
I haven't done that, but that's something that's
Don?
Yeah, Bill, I have Bill address that.
Bill's going to address that for us, but I think we've got some bids on it. Now that would have to be removed before we did this.
You could probably do it before, yes, would be the best thing to do.
So Jerry, you want to talk about young blood?
Yeah, that's the other thing I was going to do. In order to do this work, we anticipated doing this work as part of the contract fee work that we have with Youngblood Paving. We had the base stabilization bid price already in place, and we also already have unit prices for the paving and related work. And I was in communication with Youngblood Paving today, and they're still willing to do the work for the unit prices bid on this section of Anger Road.
So if the board would approve it, it would be a change order to Youngblood's contract. That's what the price he's outlined here, so it's a firm price.
I think that'd be a good idea to get this done.
Well, my point is that it's going to cost some money. I mean, whether it came down to 176, I'm glad to see that. But I'm not as in favor of doing a road that's improving a road as a cut through as opposed to a road like Coleman that needs addressed because there's a lot of residents that live on that. Most of the people traveling on Coleman, they're not using it as a cut through. They're either going to business or going to their homes. And most of the people in that section, without a doubt, they're cutting through rather than using it as access to their homes. And I'm going to say that some people don't live on that road in that area, but generally it's more of the traffic that we're trying to address is cut through traffic. And again, I don't have any problem with that, but I just don't want to do it at the expense of leaving Coleman, up in the air. So it's money that, I know we have that in an account to do that, but I'd like to at least couple that discussion with being able to consider, having money this year to do some things on Coleman. We talked about a phased project on Coleman, and this wasn't talked about at all last year at our budget time. So this is something that's going to impact our either capital improvement account, or I don't know where exactly they're proposing taking it from. Don, if we did this, where would you propose that we take the 176 from as an add-on to the Youngblood contract?
I just would suggest that comes from our budget surplus from last year. So it's in the general fund. Okay,
but all right, that's my point. That if it can come from there, I know we have it, but also we addressed, we were trying to address Coleman, and we'd like to at least make sure we also have budget surplus money to
But really what this money comes from is the liquid funds account, the LSA, and the impact fees. Those were the three that we put together for the roads to this year.
Not this. This wasn't anticipated as part of this project.
And I understand that, but between all three of those, okay, that comes pretty close to it.
Let's say it again.
The liquid fuels account, the local share, and the impact fee. Between the three of those, that gave us $1,062,000. Plus the impact fee came in at $73,888 more than what we had anticipated. So that basically pushed that up to like 1.1 million. So really, that gives us pretty close to what we need to handle these without having to go into.
What's these? Right, I'm saying, what's the these? Handle these? You're talking about the payment?
Contract A, Contract B, and this repair road on Coleman, the repairs on Coleman that we did for $146,000, and now this road here. My way that I look at it is the fact that we've got Burnside done now. We have Anger going to be done from the overlook down to Network with the third lane being turning lane put in there. To complete that area right now would be to do this other section of Anger Road for $176,000, which is a lot better than the $104,000 that was originally given to us as an estimate. $304,000. You're right, correct on that.
Yeah, I know completing an area, that does make sense, but also it makes sense. We have to address Coleman somehow. So whether that if we had that 176,000 in a 1.1, this is a new discussion on where we spend that money. And again, I don't have any problem doing Anger, but I don't want it to be the expense that then come back next month and say, well, we can't do anything on Coleman because we just spent our money on Anger. And to me, Anger doesn't have the priority that Coleman does. Now, I know we spent 140 or something on a repair, but that wasn't maintenance. That was just an emergency repair. We can't count that as
a big chunk of money out of Coleman too.
Well, not out of Coleman.
It was for Coleman. It was done on Coleman.
But an emergency repair and maintenance on one of our township roads isn't one and the same. Whether we had that repair or not, we still owe maintenance on it. And I'm just saying, I don't want it to be forgotten about because we spent our money to complete an area, Anger and Burnside. I mean, would you disagree that there's a lot more traffic on Anger that's cut through than shortcut traffic for people?
I never did a study on it to tell you
I mean,
the
if you
truth.
just-
I mean,
if you think about it, just think about it.
Up there at the overlook, okay, they're going to be going both directions. If they want to go to South Point, they'll be going one way. If they want to go down on the 980, they're going to go the other.
Well, you know, if they want to go, they have two choices. But generally, if you just use common sense, would you wouldn't agree that probably more of that traffic is cut through than local resident use?
I don't know how many residents are out there at the overlook right now. How full was the overlook?
It'll fill up to about 360 units total when it's built out.
So there's going to be a lot of residents up there.
I know the developer agreed to pay the portion he did because he feels most of his people are going to be going down towards the boulevard.
Did you come up with the price for the tree removal, Don, that we were talking about?
Yes, it was $12,950 submitted by Bulldog Tree Care.
What was that, 12,000?
$12,950. That was the lowest responsive estimate, cost estimate that I received.
No, that would finish up everything on Anger, what Joe said, and plus that tree removal.
There are 7 trees involved.
What do you think the estimate would be for us to do on just material for the public works to do the cross trains?
I'm going to guess probably under $3,000.
It wouldn't be that much.
No.
How many cross trains are we talking about?
I think 4.
You think that's old school, just putting pipes across the road instead of putting inlets in, doing it right for once?
So is that going to put more water down at the bottom of the hill there too? You're going to be able to have outlets to handle everything?
It's going to keep the water in the same place that it's going today.
Same place as what it's doing today?
No water is trapped on that road right now. The water ends up down at the bottom of the hill anyway. There's a little swamp area down at the bottom on the left-hand side as you come down Anger Road where all the water generally flows to anyway. That also would be the end point of the ravine if you had cross drains coming across. Those cross drains empty into that area also. But one way or the other, the
Not
water's
concentrated.
Pardon me?
Not concentrated.
Not to be sheet flow.
No, well, there's very little sheet flow because of the way the road's cut. You've got very little, the sheet flow is actually on the road coming down the road. The water's trapped on the road. Because there's cuts on both sides, cuts on both sides of the road.
It comes down sheets on the road because there isn't good.
Yeah, we'd have to cut the embankment probably in some areas 3 to 4 feet.
But that's what we would normally do to berm the road to keep the water along the berm, right?
Yeah, well, normally you have a cut side and a fill side, and we just don't have a clear-cut fill side there. We have about a 3 or 4 foot embankment on the fill side, what would normally be the fill side of the hill. And we would have to cut to get that sheet flow over to that side. It's a hill, and normally it wouldn't go there anyway. So the best thing to do is to control it and so that it doesn't scar the backside of the pavement. And that's what it's currently doing right now. It's scarring the backside of the pavement until it gets to a cross drain. We'll dress it up, put rock lining in it, and let it come across the road. Cross drains are very effective means of getting water off the road.
Joe, if you can recall at all, this price that we had through the bid with Youngblood, would you, is it close to last year's price per yard, the tonnage price? Would you recall, is this a good price this year?
Yeah, I would say it's a good price.
Good, it's better than last year?
It's probably right in line with last year's price per ton and price per square yard for wearing service. Yeah, it's comparable.
There also happens to be a very good chip seal price in that contract this year, at $1.75 a square yard, if anybody had an interest in doing additional chip seal. One road that comes to mind is O'Hara Road. I've run some calculations on O'Hara, it'd be about about $28,000 to chip seal O'Hara from end to end.
So you give a lot of life.
Will, do we have a motion on this for Angler Road and the tree removal?
I would like for us to discuss Coleman Road at the same time and make a decision on both of them together.
Well, I understand that the Gateway, it's hard to discuss Coleman now because we don't have pricing on some.
You don't have exactly
Yeah.
what you want to do. If we did Angler and you turned around and did the trees and stuff, you could look and see what was left after we paid these off and see how the budget was doing
You know,
for next month.
you did this last year, Andy, at budget time, and here we are almost a year later and we're nowhere. Coleman Road is nothing is being done on it. That's a disgrace that we had to spend that money, $150,000, for an emergency repair when we could have spent the money on improvements of the road, and this would never have happened.
Wait a minute, that's not fair to say it's a disgrace. That was that would have happened whether we'd have been maintaining that as a perfect road.
No,
The
but
stream.
if we had made the improvements as we should have done, it wouldn't have occurred.
Oh, it still would have.
We
that's not
moved the
true.
road over, it wouldn't be a problem.
No, that was where the creek was undercutting it. It was still gonna,
Yeah, but if
that
the
repair could
road
have
was
happened
moved over,
anywhere.
it wouldn't matter whether the creek was undercut.
I don't know that you were gonna move the road over. You'd be infringing on that person's property right there. I don't think that was an original part of moving the road over.
Yeah, that's the tightest part of the road, and that's, if you recall, where we had the gas line crossing there. That was a very difficult place to move over. And I just make a suggestion. I don't want it to get too late in the year with the prices that we have and we're bid. My suggestion would be that you move ahead and authorize Anger to get it done, and there's momentum here and we move forward. Give us a chance. I think we can take some of the lessons learned and some of the things that we talked about here to get the cost down on Anger and take a different look at Coleman. Come back. We also already discussed and approached the Coleman, the phase part of the work this year. So if we get back here next month and there's some additional money that could be spent, maybe we could get started doing with some of the work, whether it be some drainage work with Bill or some of the cutting that we could do to get it set up for next year to do. So, I mean, you're not going to pave Coleman this year. That's not realistic. But I think that you can do some of the preparatory work if everybody kind of agrees on the approach that we take. And again, we've discussed, doing some things out there that maybe a little bit more unorthodox, rather than just applying a normal township road template on the road, that we could, since it is more of a local road and for the business, that we could get the surface improved up there, make some safety improvements where we can fit them in and not do so much wholesale cutting in the hillside and so forth, and get the drainage work done. That's what we've been talking about. So I want to give us a chance, at least to next month, to come back and we can report on that, and maybe make a suggestion of if there are any funds left this year, what we could go in either with township forces or what you have under contract already this year.